Artificial sweeteners are always given bad press by the nutritional zealots. They will tell you that it is one ingredient that you should definitely avoid. It's going to increase fat gain. It's going to prevent you from losing weight, losing body fat, and achieving your goals. It might even rot your gut, cause you to get cancer, and it's basically the harbinger of everything that is evil with the world. But is that actually true? Are all of these claims that people make about artificial sweeteners based in fact, or are they based in fad and fear-mongering? That's what we're going to be exploring in today's episode of the podcast, but we're going to specifically look at artificial sweeteners in relation to hunger and in relation to appetite. To answer that part of the equation, is it really the case that having artificial sweeteners in your diet in any way, shape or form is going to play havoc with your appetite? It's going to make you feel so hungry that you're going to dive into plate after plate of calorific food and therefore ultimately not achieve your goals. So if you're interested in that, now's the time to listen up. The specific argument that's made in this topic around artificial sweeteners, specifically in relation to appetite, is that the artificial sweeteners are going to increase hunger. That increased hunger is going to cause you to overeat. And there's also this insulin response that is jacked up by the artificial sweeteners. So it's kind of like the sweeteners are tricking your body into thinking that it's ingesting calorific food, and therefore it's going to jack insulin up. That's going to stop the fat burning process, and therefore that's what's going to make you fat and stop you losing fat. Now, on this particular podcast, we like to base our theories and our assumptions on fact. We don't like to disappear off rabbit warrens of bullshit that are actually based on some guru's belief of the world. We like to look at what we determine as research, because evidence-based stuff is kind of cool, right? You like to know that the information you're getting is based on some guy, girl, whatever in a laboratory doing some actual fucking research, rather than just some dude or dudette on the Instagram just pulling some claim or some notion out of their butthole and spreading it across social media like the shit that it is. Now, for this particular topic, I'm going to delve into some research by Anton et al. In 2010. So you can go look that up on PubMed if you so wish. Now, the reason why we're going to look at this particular study is that it specifically looked at sweeteners in comparison to not having sweeteners in relation to both hunger and also the amount of calories that people ate after having a snack, in terms of what they ate in subsequent lunch and dinner meals, and then also what was the actual insulin response from people who had artificial sweeteners in that snack food versus those that didn't. So it's kind of answering this question for us, which is kind of cool, isn't it? Because we're going to get right to the actual detail. So let's first look at how this study was set up. Participants in the study were given a simple snack of tea, crackers, and cream cheese. Very nice, very civilized. So they had this snack before having lunch and dinner meals. Now, it was set up into 3 different scenarios. So there was a group that didn't have any artificial sweeteners, anything like that, and their calorie intake was around about 490 calories for that snack meal. Then there was a group that had the same snack, but that was sweetened with aspartame. That snack was around 290 calories. And then the final group had their snack sweetened with stevia, which was also around 290 calories. So if the myth or the zealots are to be believed, then we should see that the group with the sweeteners should eat more in their lunch and dinner meals despite having less calories in that pre-meal snack. Because if we're going to get this thing that it increases hunger, it increases the drive to eat, it increases your actual caloric intake in subsequent meals, and it jacks up insulin and all these sorts of various different things, we should see more calories consumed in lunch and dinner, and we should also see a greater spike in insulin and blood glucose. So, what were the results? Interestingly, all three groups reported the same levels of satiety. Satiety being those feelings of fullness, so how hungry or not you are at any particular moment in time. So they all reported the same levels of satiety. So no difference whether there was sweeteners in the meal or not. Secondly, there were lower levels of glucose and insulin in those meals where there was artificial sweeteners, proving the point that those artificial sweeteners did not jack up insulin levels. And if you were to take this a little step further, take that logic a little step further, if it was the case that let's say we take, not necessarily in this case, which was a snack which had some sweetener in it, let's take something like a Diet Coke or a diet soda of some description that has, relatively speaking, 0 calories. Now, if you're in that situation and you drink something that has 0 calories, got artificial sweeteners, if that was to jack up your insulin levels at that point, there's nothing actually for that insulin to do. So there's no glucose for the actual insulin to work with, to dispose of. So there's nothing actually for that rush of insulin to do. And that would be very, very bad for your health and in an extreme circumstances would fucking kill you. So the idea that this increase of insulin comes when there's 0 calories in this food and it's just coming from the artificial sweeteners is not borne out in either research or logic. So the other thing to think about is that in a calorie controlled diet, in a healthful diet where you're getting lots of fruits, vegetables, vitamins, minerals, all those different sorts of foods that you need, having foods that have got artificial sweeteners in them is not going to adversely affect your weight loss or any particular health goal that you have. Now, you don't have to have foods with artificial sweeteners in it. You don't have to not have foods with artificial sweeteners in it. But if you are someone who is having foods that are got lots of refined sugar in them and you're finding it difficult to swap those foods out and you're just at that very starting process where you're trying to change your nutrition, you're trying to include more nutritious foods and things like that, and you're finding it difficult, one way to easily manipulate your calorie intake is to drop out all of those maybe full sugar sodas that you're having and swap them for the lower calorie, 0 calorie versions which do have sweeteners in it. That is going to be an easy way for you to drop calories without having to completely revolutionize your diet. That's something that you can do over time. You can work on increasing the amount of nutritious foods in your diet over a period of time. You don't have to do everything overnight. You don't have to listen to the gurus telling you you're gonna die if you have artificial sweeteners. That's not the case. And in this specific scenario, you're effectively having the same levels of hunger, so you're not feeling like you wanna chew your own fucking arm off after the end of a meal, and you're having that on fewer calories. Therefore, that's benefiting your deficit, which sounds like a good combo when it comes to trying to achieve your goals. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should rush out and just feast on any foods that you can find with artificial sweeteners. That's probably not the best strategy either, but finding that balance and not being fearful of food is obviously going to be the right balance to strive for. Now, that will be different for different people. Sometimes people find with certain artificial sweeteners or sugar alcohols that it gives them a bit of wind in the back door. Again, you're going to have to adjust to that and modify. But the main thing here is don't be fearful of artificial sweeteners. You can absolutely have them as part of your diet and still be completely healthy. So hopefully this episode of the show gave you that clarity you need around artificial sweetness. Now, we've done episodes on the podcast before that covered some of the other myths around artificial sweeteners, so dive back into those episodes if you want more information. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you are listening to this on a podcast, then it would be awesome if you could leave a rating and a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to the podcast. And as always, I love to see and hear whereabouts in the world you are from and where you're listening to this show or this podcast. So if you want to tag a screenshot in your Instagram stories, tag me in it at iron_paradise_fitness. That would be absolutely awesome. Now, if this episode of the show has given you a little bit of a taster for getting some evidence-based advice when it comes to training and nutrition, then click the link in the show notes below, because you can first of all access my free online calorie and macro calculator. So if you're trying to figure out how many calories you should eat in order to achieve your goals, then this is going to help you. Absolutely free, you can use it, and you can get those calorie recommendations in about 60 seconds or less, depending on how technologically gifted you are. Now, once you get access to that calorie and macro calculator, I am also going to send you a free calorie guide so you can get all the information on calories, macros, and break down all of the confusing information that might be getting you frustrated. So it's a real simple guide to everything you need to know about calories and macros. Plus, if you're a beginner, I'm going to send you a free 4-week training program, a guide on conquering cravings. I'm going to send you a free recipe pack and loads of different stuff. So if you want all that, then click the link in the show notes below. Plus, if you want to skip all that and maybe say, Simon, hey, you can do all this for me. Let's do some one-to-one coaching. Let's take this and just let you do it all for me and tell me exactly what I've got to fucking do, and then I'll just follow the plan. Awesome. Talk to me about one-to-one coaching. The Lean Life Method can absolutely do that for you. The link for that is in the show notes as well. But for now, all I'm going to say is thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Keep living the lean life, and I'll see you for the next episode of the show.